Some Gulf Coast cities are already reporting significant damage from Hurricane Harvey. The dangerous storm came ashore late last night as a Category 4 storm, unleashing misery on millions of Texas residents. Don Champion is live bringing us the latest.
Good morning. Hurricane Harvey continues to show little mercy on parts of the Texas Gulf Coast. Even though daylight will soon reveal some of the initial damage, this slow motion disaster is far from over. Bands of torrential rain and high winds pounded the Texas Gulf Coast all night. Harvey first made landfall about 30 miles northeast of Corpus Christi as a Category 4 hurricane, the most intense storm to hit the U.S. in more than a decade. 125-mile-per-hour winds took aim at the town of Rockport, the high school, a senior housing center, and parts of historic downtown all hit. Hours later, the monster storm made a second landfall and started weakening, but it's on track to dump up to 3 feet of rain in some areas. Already more than 200,000 people are without power. It's prompted a boil water advisory here in Corpus Christi. Anyone who stayed behind has been told to boil their water before they consume it. As Harvey approached, officials urged coastal residents to evacuate. Many boarded buses and headed inland.
Try to be strong because I don't want my children to see and, they get scared and then it's just, have them scared. I just have to be a strong mother for them.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott visited a shelter in San Antonio.
The most important thing that you can do is to safeguard your own life.
Still in the storm's path, flood-prone Houston and the city's more than 2 million residents, as well as key oil refineries. Harvey is expected to stick around for days and could spin back into the Gulf and strike again next week. As for when crews will be able to go out to the coastal areas to begin to assess some of the damage, we are told it could take several hours to even start that work. We're live in Corpus Christi, Texas this morning. Don Champion, now back to you.
All right, thanks, Don. WJZ's complete coverage continues now. Meteorologist Tim Williams is in the First Warning Weather Center, where he's been tracking the storm all morning. Tim?
Well, Tracy, this storm is just starting to really impact the area. It made landfall, as you heard Don Champion mention, just around 4 o'clock Central Time, about 5 o'clock our time. It's made 2 landfalls, and I'll show you that here in just a second. First Warning Live Doppler radar shows a very impressive storm. It's very impressive and very dangerous. The eye of this system right in the middle of your screen, just south of Victoria, and all the points there impacted Houston here to the top of your screen, Austin off to the north and northwest, San Antonio and Corpus Christi. There are barriers down, almost like the barrier islands we have on this coast down around North Carolina. So the first landfall was the barriers there right around 4 o'clock their time, and then it crossed over and made landfall into mainland Texas just about an hour later. So 2 landfalls with this system. It is a very large area that's being covered. It's moving to the north and northwest around 6 miles per hour. Still a Category 2 storm with sustained winds of 100 miles per hour, gusts up to about 120 miles per hour. And you also heard Don Champion mention that this storm could re-intensify. That is because there is really nothing to drive this storm anywhere away from the area. So what we're noticing here is that some of our models have it really being pushed back down into the Gulf. 80-degree temperatures in the water re-intensifies a hurricane. That's what it takes. That's the magic number for a storm to strengthen. So if these models are correct and this storm gets pushed back into the water, while it may lose its intensity and become a tropical storm, it could actually re-intensify back up to a Category 1, maybe even 2 or 3 storm if it gets pushed back into the water. Now, you add that to the fact that they're getting nothing but solid, heavy torrential downpours. The precipitation models, the projections, have most of the areas getting upwards of 20 inches of rain, 21 inches of rain toward Houston, more than 20 inches down in Corpus Christi. These numbers are going to go up, and even over as far as San Antonio and even as far over as New Orleans, they could see more than a foot of rain. That coupled with the fact that a storm surge is expected to be upwards of about 12 to 13 feet, and that's from the water being pushed from the Gulf of Mexico into Texas. We'll continue to monitor the impacts of Harvey. For now, Tracy, back over to you.
All right, thank you, Tim. Here's what you need to know about Hurricane Harvey. It's currently a Category 2 hurricane. Torrential downpours are expected throughout the day, and more than 200,000 homes and businesses are now without power. We have learned that 37 Marylanders who volunteer with the Red Cross are being deployed to the affected areas down south. President Trump signed a disaster proclamation last night. He plans to go to Texas early next week.